often feels like a cruel joke, doesn't it? You've been putting in the work, following the rules, trying to be a good person, but somehow, it seems like the ones who lie, cheat, and manipulate are the ones who get ahead. You see them climbing the corporate ladder, making money, and enjoying all the perks of success while you're left wondering, what went wrong? Why do bad people seem to win while good people seem to struggle? It's a question that many of us have asked at some point in our lives. You've probably noticed this in your job, in politics, or even in your personal relationships. The people who care the least about others seem to get ahead. They exploit weaknesses, manipulate situations, and use others for their own benefit. Meanwhile, the ones who strive to be virtuous, who work hard, who treat others with kindness and respect, are often left feeling defeated. It's enough to make anyone question the fairness of life. If being a good person doesn't guarantee success, then what's the point of trying? The harsh truth is that life isn't fair. Good people don't always win. In fact, sometimes the worse someone behaves, the more they seem to thrive. This reality can be painful, but rather than complaining or simply venting about how unfair life is, let's dig a little deeper. There's more to this situation than just bad luck or unfortunate circumstances. Understanding why bad people seem to win can give us valuable insights into how we can navigate life, achieve our goals, and still stay true to ourselves. This question, why do evil and bad people seem to win, isn't just about frustration or resentment. It's about a painful observation of human life. Every day we witness people who act selfishly, manipulatively, and sometimes even cruelly, yet they come out on top. And that's a difficult thing to accept. But instead of simply throwing our hands up in defeat, let's take a closer look at why this happens and what we can do about it. We've all seen this dynamic play out in different contexts. At work, in relationships, or in society at large. The people who are ruthless, who bend the rules and manipulate others, often seem to be the ones who succeed. Meanwhile, the ones who follow the rules, work hard, and try to do the right thing end up feeling overlooked, underappreciated, or even exploited. But this isn't just a modern-day issue. The same dynamics have existed for centuries. And one of the most important thinkers who explored this idea was the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who lived in the 19th century. Nietzsche saw these patterns in his time, and his work offers valuable insights into why bad people seem to win, and how we can navigate this reality in a way that doesn't compromise our values. In his philosophy, Nietzsche introduced a concept called the will to power. This concept is central to understanding the dynamics of power and success in life. According to Nietzsche, power is not just about physical strength, money, or status. It's about the ability to assert your will, shape the world around you, and bend reality to your desires. Nietzsche believed that all human beings are driven by the desire to overcome obstacles and expand their influence. This drive isn't inherently evil, it's simply part of human nature. We all want to grow, achieve, and assert ourselves in the world. However, the way in which people assert their will can vary. Some people use this drive to create, build, and positively influence others, while others use it to manipulate, dominate, and exploit others for personal gain. So, why do bad people seem to win in life? The answer lies in how they understand and use the will to power. Bad people are often able to harness this force in a way that good people may not fully recognize or use. They understand that power is not just about wealth or status. It's about influence, control, and the ability to assert oneself in social and psychological spaces. Bad people often know how to manipulate power dynamics. They understand how to play on others' weaknesses, how to bend social norms to their advantage, and how to exploit situations for their own benefit. They are able to assert their will and get ahead by using others as stepping stones, rather than working collaboratively or treating others with respect. For example, at work, you might see someone who takes credit for others' ideas or manipulates situations to get a promotion. They may not be the hardest worker or the most qualified, but they know how to manipulate people and circumstances to their advantage. Meanwhile, someone who is genuinely hardworking and honest may get passed over because they don't understand the subtle dynamics of power at play. This doesn't mean that all people who are successful are bad, but it does mean that bad people often succeed because they understand the rules of power in ways that others don't. They know how to navigate the system, and they are willing to do whatever it takes to climb the ladder, regardless of who they step on along the way. But Nietzsche didn't just focus on why bad people seem to succeed, he also critiqued the mentality behind this kind of power. For Nietzsche, those who wield power without any consideration of their values are ultimately driven by a sense of nihilism or meaninglessness. They may win in terms of wealth, status, or influence, but their victories are hollow. They lack true fulfillment, purpose, or a deeper sense of meaning. This kind of success, built on manipulation and exploitation, may look impressive on the outside, but it often leads to a deep spiritual emptiness. Nietzsche believed that true power comes from within. It's about mastering yourself, understanding your desires, and using your will to shape the world in a way that is true to your values. One of Nietzsche's most famous concepts is the Übermensch or Overman. The Übermensch represents someone who transcends conventional power struggles and moralities. They rise above the typical societal norms and define their own values. The Übermensch is not driven by a need to dominate or manipulate others. Instead, they act from a place of self-mastery, authentic strength, and the desire to create rather than destroy. Unlike bad people who exploit power recklessly, the Übermensch uses power in a constructive way. They understand the dynamics of power, but they use this understanding to build something positive, to empower themselves and others, and to create meaning in their lives. The difference between the Übermensch and those who misuse power is crucial. The Übermensch does not exploit others for personal gain. They don't manipulate or dominate others in order to rise to the top. Instead, they seek to build and create something of value. Their power comes from a deep sense of purpose and a commitment to authenticity and self-mastery. Nietzsche also critiqued traditional morality, particularly the way society often imposes restrictions on the will to power. In his view, much of traditional morality, what he called slave morality, promotes values like humility, self-sacrifice, and kindness. While these values are not inherently bad, Nietzsche believed that they can suppress our natural instincts to grow, expand, and assert ourselves. Society often rewards mediocrity and punishes strength, which creates a system where bad people can thrive. Bad people often understand how to manipulate these social norms. They know that kindness, humility, and selflessness can be exploited, and they use these values to their advantage. They play within the framework of conventional morality, but twist it to serve their own selfish ends. They understand that society rewards certain behaviors, and they use that knowledge to gain power. On the other hand, good people often fall victim to these same norms. They believe that being virtuous and following the rules will protect them, but they don't realize that these values can be used against them. The weakness is in assuming that morality alone will guarantee success. In a world where power dynamics are constantly at play, being good isn't always enough to ensure you'll win. Nietzsche didn't argue that traditional morality should be abandoned altogether. Instead, he encouraged individuals to question their values and redefine them to align with their own desires and goals. Good people don't have to abandon their integrity, but they do need to understand the nature of power and learn how to assert their will in life. The problem is that many good people don't understand how power works. They focus on being kind, ethical, and hardworking, but they forget the importance of taking control of their own lives. Life doesn't care about your virtue. It cares about who can assert their will and make things happen. To succeed in life, you need to understand the rules of power. You need to learn how to assert your will in a way that aligns with your values. This means mastering the psychology of influence, learning to navigate social dynamics, and using resources strategically. Good people often fail in these areas because they are so focused on being good that they forget to play the game of life. So, the next time you find yourself wondering why bad people seem to win, ask yourself, are you asserting your will to power, or are you just following the rules of a system that rewards manipulation and exploitation? The key takeaway from Nietzsche's philosophy isn't about becoming ruthless or abandoning your values. It's about understanding the dynamics of power and using that knowledge to craft your own destiny. It's about taking control of your life, being intentional with your actions, and using your will to shape the world around you. If you've been sitting back, waiting for life to reward your goodness, it's time to take charge. Start asserting your power. Be strategic about your goals. Learn to use the forces of influence to empower yourself and others. Start winning for the right reasons.